and welcome to Finextra. I'm Hannah Wallace and we're here at EBAday 2018 in Munich. Joining me now is the CEO of Swift, Gottfried Liebbrandt, and we're discussing the international payments landscape. Gottfried, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me today. Now, setting the scene, how do you see the international payments landscape currently and in the future with regards to speed?
How do I see it? I think it's changing rapidly, very rapidly. I've been in payments most of my life, actually, in various jobs, and I have a hard time seeing a time when it was as dynamic as it is right now. And the retail end is the most dynamic, where for me the quintessential example is still China, where the whole place is turned upside down at the point of sale. Just to give you an impression. We're here in Germany, point of sale, 2/3 of the payments are cash, 1/3 is cards. In China, 1/3 at the POS is cash, and the rest is not cards, but all Alipay and WeChat. So boom, 2/3 of POS. So that the world is really turning upside down. International payments, I think, are no exception. A lot of change, especially in what I call the Western Union segment of it, which is payments between 500 and 2,000 euro cross-border. Huge growth in demand there from worker remittances, but also from people paying for purchases on the internet, etc. With a lot of new solutions coming out there to cater for that. For consumers who are getting used to a universal experience, they know the internet to be instant, everywhere, seamless, etc. And they expect that same experience. So the place is really undergoing change, and I think the challenge for everybody in that space, including us and our banks, is to keep up with that and use that new technology to provide that same great experience to the end customer. So.
All right, and looking at the industry, which developments would you say are the most interesting and transformative?
Yeah, that's an easy one. You can guess the answer. For us, that's GPI. Again, I've been in cross-border payments for as long as I can remember. Has been correspondent banking. Deeply entrenched, but also not the greatest experience from a customer. It takes a while for the payment to get from A to B. You don't know how much money is going to end up in the other account, and the transparency on where the money is. You can track the package, but not the payment. So we set out to solve that with our banks. We launched GPI, and I have to say I am extremely pleased with the results so far. I would say that, but let me give you some data around that. The GPI payments, we now first adoption, we have about 1/3 of all cross-border payments one way or another on the GPI platform. Of the payments on GPI, all of them are done within a day, half of them are done within half an hour, and many of them literally in minutes. And the biggest corridor is China, US, and US-China. Not surprisingly, the Chinese banks, having seen what happens in retail, they've really embraced this one. Is that this is not going to happen to us in wholesale, so they've wholeheartedly embraced it. Same for the US banks. I was in China a few weeks back. Chinese banks tell me, listen, the tracking you offer is great, but all the payments we send to the US are now cleared within minutes, literally. So yeah, tracking is nice, but we actually know where the payment is. It's at the other end in a couple of minutes. So both the results in terms of timeliness, trackability, as well as adoption are really encouraging. We have really thrown in we're going to hit the accelerator on that one. We have proposed to our community to go for global adoption of GPI, so make it the standard everywhere by 2020. That's not that far away. We're also rapidly introducing value-added services on GPI. So we have stop and recall. So if you have doubts about a payment, you can enter the identifier, and we can stop the payment wherever it is in the network. We have a number of services around the rich information in it. We're going to facilitate not just customer payments, but also interbank 202 cover payments for the insiders. We're looking at value-added services in terms of validating the end customer bank account name, address, as well as some of the checks in the payment chain before the payment is being made to increase STP. And I should say the other big thing that's happening is we've introduced a unique identifier that follows the whole payment. That allows you to track it. But that same identifier allows the banks to track these payments and identify bottlenecks. And there's a whole process now that we know where the bottlenecks is, we can actually de-bottleneck the system. So the amount of payments that go through straight has gone up dramatically. So which again improves the customer experience. So as you can tell from my enthusiasm, that I think is a very significant thing that we, together with our community, with our banks, are doing to transform the space and make sure we use that new technology to enhance customer experience.
Yes, it's certainly an interesting space to look out for. And now tell me, what roles does SWIFT play in the development of faster payments globally?
So we play a number of roles. One is we do our own, the transformation of cross-border banking. The other one that we do is support domestic real-time payments infrastructures. We had the Australian one, where we went live earlier this year. That completely runs on the SWIFT infrastructure. We are doing the same for the European ones, the one of TIPS and EBA, the RT1. Both of those will be available over our network to the banks that connect to the SWIFT network. We're playing an important role in the standardization of all of this. And then finally, we are now working with a number of banks to see how can we interconnect the global aspect of GPI with some of these domestic real-time infrastructures. And then maybe the final one, I should mention in the context of GPI, we're looking with a number of banks whether we can narrow the time windows on GPI even more to literally minutes or even seconds, making cross-border payments almost as good as domestic real-time payments. So clearly pushing on all fronts there.
And finally, instant payment systems are being developed in a number of countries. Can you explain what SWIFT has been doing to bring about some of these new systems?
In real-time payments? So we are, as I said, we really are working with a number of these communities to support them on the network. The other thing we're doing is make sure that we offer connectivity solutions, so we offer a SWIFT interface to customers by which they connect to their counterparty banks, connect to our network. Our newest product there, which is called AMH, allows for connectivity not just over the SWIFT network, but also to domestic real-time solutions if they're not hosted on our network. So in the US, for example, where the clearinghouse is offering a real-time solution, we're allowing the US banks to access that solution using our interface, but the local network that the clearinghouse in the US is offering. And then I should mention standardization indeed. We have always been offering standards to our banks worldwide, both of the traditional FinMT variety, which was a proprietary SWIFT standard, but now the ISO 20022, where we are working with our community to see if we can move cross-border payments also over time to 20022. Many of these domestic systems already use that, so we're working with them to standardize these payments on 20022, agree on the definitions, and make them interoperable globally.
Well, Gottfried, this has been great. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
And thank you for watching.